What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerded Out. Today is going to be a quick one. We're just going to talk about the new One Piece chapter, One Piece 1149, and then we're going to get up out of here. As always, if you have not caught up to the latest chapters or episodes, please know that there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, One Piece 1149, pretty fire chapter. One Piece is on the cover again, as One Piece does. This time we got Luffy, and honestly, I was surprised because Sanji's in here. Normally we don't see Sanji in like a lot of the cover pages. Well, not cover pages, the Shonen Jump pages. Like Luffy is here all the time. And honestly, I don't know how often Chopper is in here either. But like I'm super not used to seeing Sanji on here. But it's cool. We got him in like an old car, and it's got the 5-6, which is the Gomu. Chopper's hanging on to Sanji's head. It's a nice little cover. It fits, I think, Sanji's character pretty well. We also got a color spread, which I think looks fantastic. The color, I think it's like a little bit more saturated than it normally shows. Man, it looks really good. Now it doesn't have all of the Straw Hats in it. It looks like we're missing Jinbei, Brook, Frankie. Okay, so Jinbei, Brook, and Frankie don't seem to be in here. We got Robin, Sanji, Nami, Zoro, Luffy, and Usopp. We don't have Jinbei, Brook, Frankie. But we do have like Bonnie, and she has something that says RIP. I'm wondering if it says Kuma underneath that. And then we have Lilith in here as well. Like this is a really nice color spread. This might be one of my favorites, to be honest. It looks like there's some news about like the Netflix adaptation and things like that. I can't really tell what that says because it's all in Japanese, but like the coloring itself, I absolutely love it. I'm definitely going to make something out of this because this looks really good. Into the chapter, 1149, 1 second. So we left off with Gabon pulling up and taking off Summer's hand. Basically, it's not regenerating. We see Haki leaking off the axe, so we know that there's some kind of Haki technique being applied here. And that gash through his chest left Summers in pain. He's shouting out, and obviously people are wondering why this is working on Summers when they basically just got told and saw that he's immortal, so everyone's somewhat surprised. Now, Gabon mentions that he's rusty, which is something that a lot of the old heads do whenever they get into a fight. They're rusty, they lost power, not as strong as they used to be. That's such like a manga trope. Every old person who's insanely strong talks about how less strong they are. But he starts going back in. Summers isn't done yet. He's putting up barriers. And the barriers are strong enough to hold Gabon's axe back, which is interesting because the fact that, Summers himself got cleaned through so easily, but the barriers are, it's like it's barrier thorns. And I think they're imbued with Haki. So I guess it's more defensive than he normally would be. Now, they clearly had no idea that he was here because he's vastly surprised. He's like, Mountain Eater, why are you in Elbaf? And Gabon's just like, nah, we just chatting. Let's have fun with it. And so they're clashing back and forth. It's kind of surprising because Summers is holding up Gabon with one hand, which I think shouldn't be the case. I think with one hand, he should be at a severe disadvantage, but I guess it just speaks to the God's Knights. And then we have the Straw Hats having their own dialogue. Nami was there when Luffy and Zoro fought Gabon, and she mentions that they were totally overwhelmed, which I don't want to say that they were totally overwhelmed. They were definitely getting like pushed around, but totally overwhelmed is a bit much. Then again, that might just be a translation thing. It's like, yeah, and that's Colin's dad. And so they put two together. It's like Colin's dad is Scopper Gabon. He's part of the Pirate King's crew. He's the left hand. And they're all raising, oh, that person was in the Land of Giants. And I'm realizing now that Brook is completely tied up compared to everyone else who's really just moderately bandaged. I don't know if that's how he appeared when he first got caught by Gunko. That's how he looks now. And something I like that happens here is that Chopper notices that the attacks Gabon are using have an effect. He keys in on that and he's like, okay, there's something important going on here. And I feel like that's important because, like I was talking about this last chapter, is that we need to get this tech in the Straw Hats. We need them to know how to do it. Now, Robin's head up, she's trying to work it out, and this is something else I talked about last chapter, is that her power specifically, when she grows her hands, when she interacts with things, those limbs also take damage. And Jinbei's like, yeah, the thorn ability is bad for your ability because, it's the hand-to-hand combat. You got to make contact with people. So I'm like, yeah, that definitely doesn't exist. So I guess it depends, because her clone didn't seem to pass on the damage, but it looks like her limbs now are taking damage. Now, Summer starts summoning thorns from a lot of different places, and I'm trying to figure out if this is an awakening of some kind, or if this is what class of fruit does this thorn ability lie in? Because it doesn't seem like a Logia, but it seems like he has control over like plant life maybe. So maybe he's turning like the grass to thorns, or like he's growing thorns. But he seems to be affecting like the ground. He's summoning thorns out of nowhere. So I'm kind of curious as to how exactly that power works. Gabon starts clearing through it, which is weird because he couldn't clear through the other ones. These seem a bit easier for him to cut through. And then he slices through Summers himself with a move called Futanaku, which is a play on words for a musical composition. Interesting. But he like cleaves the entire top half of Summers off. And like there's definitely blood, so there's some damage with that, but it seems like it's still recoverable. Summer doesn't seem completely out of the picture. And so after Gabon clears through Summers, he's heading towards Colin. Interestingly enough, Summers' body falls into the thorns, and like he takes damage from the thorns. Or at least it would seem like he's taking damage from the thorns. And then we get more from Chopper, where basically Chopper is actually following Gabon, and he's even going through the thorns, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure, based on like the amount of thorns that are on the ground in this panel, I'm pretty sure Chopper could clear that in one jump. But Chopper realizes that Gabon can cut him, and he's like, we need that information. So he charges in to get it after Gabon. I love that. I love that so much because we need that information. And the fact that, the Straw Hats are, or at least, a Straw Hat is realizing that, is taking that into account and acting on that immediately is good. We want to see that. You want your characters to continually be competent, especially at this level, where we're fighting the top of the top, where we need to improve, where we need to get better. We have to be competent at all points. Now we jump over to the library school area, and it looks like they have set everything on fire. I'm kind of surprised by this because honestly, I thought that when Gabon showed up, they would have not set the place on fire. Like they would have just bagged up. Now I think one of the things that's happening is that Killingham is actually the one who's setting fire. But he says that you've done all you can, I'll take over. So it seems like Anj set some fires and then Killingham is like wrapping it up. And you can even see, I think Anj has like a torch in her hand. So she set some of the fires, just not all of them. But yeah, I thought when Gabon pulled up that they would have held off a little bit, but now they just want to have the fires. So like everything's setting up, everything's on fire, and obviously Robin sees this, she's not happy with it. It looks like Saul is having some kind of reaction. I can't tell if he's crying because he's hurt or crying because of the library. He's been down this whole time. Even Jarl is crying because this is their history. This is like all of their world is contained in these books, these words, all of this stuff. That's where their history comes from. And I mean, that's the goal of the Gods Knights, is to kind of kill who they are as people. They want to eliminate that and basically subjugate them to be just machines for the world government. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily a plot point. I want to see if the owl does anything in particular. I'd be very curious to see if he makes any moves. And then we pan over to Rania, who is tearing up. She's still on the arrow because basically they were waiting to set the libraries on fire. Once they do, they start pulling her back, and it's kind of sad because she's blaming herself for this. And we saw before that she was willing to sacrifice herself to preserve the history. So she sees the library burning and she's like, this is all my fault. If only I hadn't been alive, then that would be the case. And it sucks because she has to feel that way, and that honestly, it doesn't make a difference. Like, honestly, what child would have been out there, they would have been the same thing. But the fact that she's taking it all on her own shoulders is just really sad for a kid, because you know they don't really know much better than that. So you know, obviously in her mind, she thinks that she's the problem. If she didn't exist, the problem wouldn't be there. But you know, it's a bit more complicated than that. Luckily, all the kids support her, and they're trying to, like, you know, keep her upbeat. Even the giants are also like saying, you know, that's not true. And then we pan back, we got Gabon pulling up because he obviously doesn't agree with that sentiment either. And he's getting ready to pull up on Gunko. Now, there's been murmurs of who Gabon is, and he's been trying to play low. Like, he's not trying to let that stuff out. But Gunko's starting to put two and two together, and then the kids kind of just give it all away. Basically, Gabon is Colin's dad. And that gives Gunko enough of a leap to say, okay, your kid's here. I know what to do. And honestly, an impressive feat from Gunko, because Gabon's pulling up, getting ready to attack. She dodges on her arrow and pulls up on Colin so fast. Like, crazy speed feat. Again, I love her ability. I think her ability is so cool. So she pulls up on Colin and she gets ready to stab him through the throat. His tiny little non-giant throat. And initially, Gabon calculates that basically in 1 second, he can go in there, get rid of Gunko, save Colin. It'll all be good. Basically, he just needs that 1 second. He needs Colin to hang in there. And Colin agrees to it. Like, Colin's like, yeah, I got this. I can do it. He's scared, obviously, but you know, he's gonna batten down. He's gonna deal with it. And Scopper's rushing in there. He's having flashbacks of his kid, basically when he was born. Still don't know how that worked because both Colin as a baby and Ripley are giants. Scopper is like the size of Colin's head as a baby. That whole situation is still wild to me, but you know, it is what it is. They do call him the Mountain Eater. And we even have like a scene from Ripley where she's like, basically, okay, we don't know exactly where Ripley is at in this entire. She was headed over this way. We don't know how far she got. But as Gabon pulls up, Gunko kind of gets her needle closer through Colin's neck. Like, you can see blood trickling now. And before he gets there, he sees a vision of the future. So obviously he has future sight. And he sees that Colin basically gets stabbed completely through the neck before he gets there. Now, whether or not this would have killed Colin, you know, it's not enough to say he is a giant. So I don't know if that's exactly enough. But I think the idea of seeing his kid in pain, because you can see that Colin's crying and like the needle's all the way through his neck. I think that's enough to stop Scopper, where he's like, even if I do get there, I don't want my kid to go through that. So instead, he surrenders, throws away his axe, and this gives Gunko the chance to go ahead and light him with arrows. And it looks almost like she does bullet shot? What Doflamingo does, where he shoots like bullet threads from his finger. It looks pretty much like that, but with arrows. Also cool. So Gabon's filled with arrows. He's fallen off the side of the tree. My guess is that he's going to fall basically where everyone is at the underworld. So like where Loki and Luffy and Zoro are. That's where he's going. And it's also where Chopper is going, because Chopper wants the information. So Chopper's going up after him. Chopper's going to save Gabon from like hitting the ground and getting hurt. My guess is that he's going to use guard point once they get to the ground. And once they interact with Luffy and them, there's a good chance that they're going to basically trade off information. And we're going to get Luffy and Zoro using whatever hockey technique that Gabon just used to fight the Gods Knights. I think that's where that plot point is headed. Obviously, Scopper is a strong adversary. They can't have him plus Luffy plus Zoro all fighting the Gods Knights at once. I don't think the Gods Knights effectively win that. So you got to take out some of the pieces. And now seeing this makes Colin cry out for his dad. So he starts shouting daddy. And this triggers something in Gunko's mind. So she starts having flashbacks. And it seems like they're flashbacks that she doesn't fully remember. So like almost as if she had her mind wiped or at least erased at some point, because it starts triggering stuff in her mind. And in one of these panels, so I guess the sequence of things is that in one of these panels, you see her calling out father, or what you would presume to be her calling out father. This is her. She doesn't have the bandages. She doesn't have, well, you can't see her eyes, but she doesn't have the bandages. She doesn't have like the outfit on. And you see her like kind of stunned, you know, what is this memory? I don't remember this. The next panel, you see a child and you see Brook. And it's very clearly Brook because you have the yo-ho-ho, so it's his laugh. You have the afro. And you have someone saying, you see, my dream is to be a pirate. Now, the obvious thing you're supposed to take from this is that at some point, Brook met Gunko. And we've even had like some kind of hints to this because earlier Brook was like, you look like, or could you be, you remind me of, no, that can't be right. Stuff like that. So we know there's some connection there between Brook and Gunko. One that extends beyond just her listening to his music. Some of the interesting things about the flashback sequences is that, one, when you see her, she immediately reminded me of Yorkie. She reminded me of Yorkie and someone else, but basically she reminds me of Brook's old captain. Like the hairstyle is very similar. I think it's also, is it Deuce that she reminds me of? So I think Deuce also had a very similar hairstyle, like long but short. And well, Deuce's hair was more brushed to the back, I guess. I thought it hung more in the front. So I think it might just be Yorkie. And maybe there's another character that I'm not entirely remembering. But essentially those two. So it's like, did Brook meet Gunko at some point in the distant past? And I'm talking about distant past. This is at least, I want to say 50 years ago. And I mean, depending on when she became a God Knight, it's possible that, you know, when you get that immortality, it's like vampire powers where you don't age past when you get the ability. So it's like Brook could have met her 60 years ago, to be honest. And then when she became older, she became a God's Knight, she had the power, stopped aging. Some odd things about this are that Brook has like a cape. And as far as I know, pre-death Brook didn't have like any super long clothing. It was all fairly short. Like Brook's Thriller Bark outfit was kind of his main outfit. But like the Brook that we see in the flashback, his outfit looks a lot more like Soul King Brook. To add to that, it looks like he has almost like a cutlass or a different type of sword. And we know that Brook uses a cane sword now. So at some point he had a different sword. So it's like, it's a weird blend of like versions of Brook. I don't know which one this would be. I think even in the Rumbar Pirates, he had his cane sword. But for sure, like Death Brook has cane sword. So I don't know which version of this she's remembering. And she sees this memory, and we have Brook who does it again, where he's like, man, they really do look similar. But he's not saying who. But he's immediately distracted by Usopp talking about getting an escape plan, so he like shifts back to that. And all of a sudden, Gunko starts running towards Brook. Like it almost like that memory unlocks something and she's heading towards Brook now. As she's doing that, she basically freezes in place. And then we start hearing a voice basically talking to everyone. And it's Emu. We see Summers, and he's like impaled on all his thorns, going ouch. And Emu is talking about, you know, what's all the commotion going on over here? We pan over to Killingham, who immediately recognizes Emu. And then Emu says that the Holy Land is currently in a sea of flames. So the Holy Land is being attacked right now, as far as I can tell. And in such a way that basically everything's burning. So like they're getting messed up. And I think that's what, because they pulled Shamrock back. They came and said, Shamrock, you got to go back to the Holy Land. We need you there. So I'm guessing that has to do with all that stuff that's going on back there. And then Emu says, it seems like you guys need some additional force here. So what basically happened, and then like the last panel is like Emu will show the dominion of God. And this is all coming through Gunko. It seems like what happened is Emu basically took possession of Gunko's body and is operating through that body. One of the interesting things we see is that, so Gunko has two different eyes, right? She has kind of like the Renegon eye that Emu has, and then she kind of has like a full black pupil eye. We see that when Emu essentially takes over, both of her eyes are the same. So she has both the Renegon eyes. And she's like leaking a lot of hockey. What's also interesting is that it seems like Gunko's hair got longer. I can't tell if, Gunko had been hiding it the whole time. It always seemed like it was short to me. It definitely seems longer now. And if Gunko's hair is longer when Emu is taking over, I wonder if that gives credence to Emu being a woman. It would make sense, right? Where if Emu takes over a vessel, they kind of change to look like that vessel. We saw Emu's eyes take over. Why not other attributes? And I mean, I would have to like go back and look at every picture of Gunko to see like if there was any semblance of her having long hair. Honestly, I thought it was just short. Yeah, actually, yeah, it is short. I'm going back through the wiki now and I'm looking at different images. Like there's one image that shows the back of her head when she's listening to the headphones. She has short hair. But when Emu takes over, her hair is incredibly long. I'm pretty sure that means her hair grew in response to her being taken over by Emu, which would indicate that she's probably a woman. I'm gonna set my claim on that. And I mean, we kind of had the idea that Emu was a woman. I think this kind of nails it. I think this right here gives us a confirmation. I'm gonna stick to that. I'm gonna put my pin on the Emu's woman because of what I'm seeing right here. I'm not even gonna wait until the next chapter to see if it changes at all. I'm putting it on right here. But that's the whole chapter, and that's a crazy cliffhanger because basically we lost Shamrock as like the major antagonist, and then we got Emu, and of course it's Emu through Gunko's body, so it's not like 100%, which is obviously to keep from introducing the threat too early, where it's like through some means, Luffy and possibly Zoro are going to figure out how to injure God's Knights, and so forth, Gorosei, and so forth, Emu. So this is a way for them to get that practice in, to get that knowledge in, and not necessarily interact with Emu directly, but to show that they have the ability to fight Emu. That's what we're building up to here. That's what all the pieces, that's what Scopper falling down, Chopper realizing that Scopper has some critical information, and then we have Emu here, but not completely here. All of those pieces are leading to us gaining the information to fight back, but to not fight the head quite yet. And I'm here for it. I'm here for all of this. I want to see, because I really like Gunko, and so I do want to see what this whole Gunko Brook relationship is. I don't want it to be a situation in which Gunko necessarily changes sides. I would like if there was like a story behind it, but not one that, necessarily triggers her to swap to the Straw Hat side. I want her to still be a threat because I like her power, and I want the Straw Hats to have to overcome that. I think that's a really unique power, and I want to see some high IQ plays to go against that. But I want the backstory. I love good backstory. So super happy with this chapter. It was a fantastic chapter. Can't wait for the next one. Let me know what you thought down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.